What's up, everybody? It's your boy Corey, and I'm sorry about no video for the I don't know, 5 days or something. I've been sick. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice. I'm very nasally. I'm trying to make videos, so I don't know. I'm just hoping that I can get that mic soon, so at least the audio sounds better. But there's a couple things I want to talk about today. First is real quick. If you haven't played Black Ops 3 in a while because you're on Infinite Warfare or Modern Warfare Remastered, I suggest you go back and just put everything into that game, because if there's weapons you never got, they have that triple play pack. You can actually earn it through a contract. The only problem is, I think right now the deadline is like a little over 5 days that you have to win 100 games while it's active. So I'm not going to be able to do it. I don't have that type of time. I don't have 5 hours a day, because I don't win a lot. I win one, I lose one. I think my win-loss ratio is like 1.3. So with that, I would probably have to win. Or not win. I would have to play like 170 matches. I just don't have that type of time to play in 5 days. That's ridiculous. They should have just gave it to us, because it's a fucking Christmas, dude. Or at least make it something reasonable, like 25 wins, or play 100 matches, something. Because if you play 100 matches and you're like me, that's still like 56 wins or something like that. It's just bullshit. But on to what I actually want to talk about today, because a lot of people, my videos do very well when I talk about Nintendo, and a lot of you have said that you want more Nintendo news. Well, I've been waiting because I knew some more information would leak out. If you haven't heard recently, Eurogamer, I believe, and Digital Foundry had sources tell them what the clock speeds were for the Nintendo Switch, and they don't sound great, because it's apparently the Tegra X1 chip, which, if you don't know what that means, it's a last generation chip. It's like putting, I don't know, a very low graphics card into a computer. This is probably on par with like a 750 Ti, which has been the budget card for the longest time, and it's now being replaced by the 1050 Ti. But this definitely doesn't have that type of power, because it's last generation, and it's not good. Also, it's not even the full chip. It's the chip, but that chip is clocked normally at 1 gigahertz, and that's still pretty low. And it's not so much the undocked speed of 307 megahertz, which is abysmal. It's more of the clock speed when it's docked. When it's docked, they have it down to 768 megahertz. Why can't it be the full gigahertz? I get that you don't want the game to look way different than the undocked version, but you could have put an extra fan or some. I don't know exactly what you could have done to help the cooling situation, but there's no reason for you to downclock it that bad. That's 30%. That's a lot, and it's just doesn't make any sense. And it's not good. That chip and the Nvidia Shield could play games from last generation, like Xbox 360 games, with the regular textures, not remastered games, just the regular game with high settings and stuff like that, at 1080p 60 frames per second. There's a lot of cheap shit that can do that right now. That's not something new. And we don't even know if it's going to be doing 60 frames a second. I doubt it. Most consoles shoot for 30 frames per second, except for games like Call of Duty, where they absolutely need 60 frames per second. But it doesn't sound like a system that can run games. Like what they're saying on Digital Foundry and Eurogamer, that does not sound like a system that can do what you need it to do. And maybe I'm wrong. And possibly I am wrong, because more news came out. That's why I waited to do this video. That it can run Unreal Engine 4, which is fantastic. That's good news. And it can run it at medium at least docked. It can run it at medium settings, 1080p. Now, if that's 1080p medium settings, 60 frames per second, that's even better. But I doubt it. I bet it's 30 frames. But people should be used to that by now. Now, undocked, it's 720p at low settings. I hope they can figure something out, because 9 out of 10 times with engines, game engines, low settings look atrocious. Like medium, you can see where they cut things down, but like it's not the worst thing imaginable. But low settings usually look like the blurry, muddy shit textures that you're like, why would they even make this a setting? So I really hope they can get a little bit more power. Like, just have some medium settings. That way, like, you know, it kind of balances out, and like, even though it's a small screen, people are still gonna see really shitty textures if it's at low. Like, fine, shadows have to be at low, certain things like that have to be at low. Fine, it sucks, but fine. But textures, the way the game looks overall, needs to look okay. Like shadows, yes, that sucks, but I'd much rather have walls look like real walls than have them look like fucking paint, Microsoft Paint shit with better shadows. It worries me, because that's really low specs, even for it being portable. If that's the whole niche about your console, you should be able to run graphics a little bit better. Otherwise, what's the point? Like, anybody can go out and get a tablet that runs Serious Sam and all those type of games that are on tablets now at way better settings than that. Like, no one's gonna buy your console to go, oh yeah, I can play on the portable version, but it looks awful. Like, no one's gonna do that. And I don't know, it's making me think that it's not the Tegra X1, because I don't think the Tegra X1 could run 1080p medium settings on Unreal Engine 4. I just don't think it has the ability to do that. So it might not be the Tegra X2, which was what I was hoping it had, because that's the chip that would have put Nintendo back in the race. But if it's not ready, or they weren't going to use that in the first place, at least let's hope that it might be Tegra X1, but based on Pascal architecture. Like, it has a little bit more CUDA cores than that regular Tegra X1. It's got little different quirks about it that make it a slightly better option. So, like, you know, hopefully it's not the barely 1 teraflop performance of the Tegra X1, because I'm telling you guys right now, third parties need the power. They don't want to spend all the work or all the money and time to fucking dumb down a game that far just to put it on a different console. It's not worth it. Like, that's why you have to be at least competitive. Like, if this console was between the Xbox One and PS4 in terms of graphics, third-party developers be like, fine. And also, they came out and said, or there's reports that it's gonna allow developers to use Vulkan, OpenGL 4.5, and OpenGL SE, I believe is the other one, which are APIs so they're not just limited to DirectX 12 or DirectX 11. So like, that's good news too, and hopefully that'll help developers go, okay, it's gonna be a little more work, but it's easier because there's a lot more APIs we can choose from. So hopefully this all works out. We'll know in January. I believe it was January 12th that they're gonna be showing this thing off, right before CES. And let's just hope. Like, that's all we can do, is just hope that they're not stupid and they learn that they at least need to have the power of their competitors. That way at least developers are given the option to port over to your system. That's all they want, is the ability to port over to your system. But that's all I got for this video, guys. I'll hit